Hey, so tonight we're going to talk about what it was really like to be a caveman. And I mean really like, not the cartoon version with clubs and grunting, but the actual day-to-day life of people who lived 25,000 years ago. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. Super curious where you're all listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. All right, find that cozy spot, take a nice slow breath and just let your body sink into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back to the Paleolithic period and trust me, you're going to be real grateful for that mattress by the time we're done. So congratulations, you just woke up in a cave 25,000 years ago. The first thing that hits you is the cold, not just chilly. Bone-deep, teeth-chattering cold that makes your muscles clench. You're lying on what feels like the world's worst camping gear. Bunches of sedge grass and rushes that someone carefully arranged into a sleeping mat. It's scratchy. Really scratchy. These grass stems poke through whatever animal skin you've pulled over yourself, and every time you shift, they crinkle and rustle like nature's most uncomfortable cereal. Your nose fills with smells that are just intense. Wood smoke, yeah, but also something musty and earthy from the cave walls, the leftover scent of cooked meat from last night's meal mixing with the sharper smell of unwashed human bodies. There's this underlying funk of animal fat that's been used for waterproofing and warmth, plus something green and plant-like from all the grass bedding around you. You can hear the cave breathing, if that makes sense. Little echoes of dripping water somewhere deeper in the darkness. The soft snoring of maybe 20 other people scattered around you on their own grass mats. Someone's baby makes those tiny sleeping sounds babies make. Outside the cave entrance, you catch the distant calls of birds starting their day and maybe the rustle of some animal moving through the brush. Your body aches, I mean really aches. Yesterday was a long day of walking and hunting and gathering and you can feel it in every muscle. Your feet are tough as leather by now, but they're still sore from scrambling over rocks. Your back has that specific stiffness that comes from sleeping on the ground for, well, your entire life. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? Pretty much everything else. Actually, let me back up and paint this picture properly. You're not some primitive grunt shuffling around in animal skins. You're actually incredibly skilled, like scary skilled. You know the names and uses of hundreds of plants. You can track animals by the tiniest signs. A bent blade of grass, a scuff mark on a rock. You can make fire from scratch, napstone tools that are sharper than modern steel, and read the weather by watching how birds fly. But here's the thing. All that skill, you need every bit of it just to not die. You shift on your grass bed, trying to find a position that doesn't involve something poking into your ribs. That's better. The animal skin over you, probably deer or elk, is actually pretty warm once you get settled. These hides have been carefully prepared, scraped and worked until they're soft and flexible. Well, softish. Everything is relative when you're living in the Stone Age. As your eyes adjust to the dim light filtering in from the cave mouth, you start to make out the shapes around you. Your family group is scattered across this main chamber. Your mate and children close by, your parents and siblings and cousins arranged in family clusters around the central fire pit. 23 people total, which is pretty typical for a band like this. The fire. Oh man, the fire. It's the most important thing in your entire world, and right now it's just a pile of glowing embers and ash. Someone, probably whoever had last watch, has kept it alive through the night, feeding it slowly with carefully selected pieces of wood. The embers pulse red and orange in the cave's darkness, throwing shifting shadows on the stone walls. Getting that fire going each morning isn't like flicking a light switch. Starting a fire from nothing is genuinely hard work, even when you know what you're doing, so your people never let it die completely. There's always someone responsible for keeping those embers alive, adding just enough fuel to maintain the heat without wasting precious wood. You can smell the specific scent of the wood they've been burning. Oak and ash mostly, with some birch mixed in. Different woods burn differently, and your people know exactly which ones to use for cooking versus heat versus light. Oak burns long and steady. Birch catches easily and gives off that sweet smell. Pine is good for starting fires but smoky for cooking. Time to get up. You push yourself upright on your grass mat and every joint protests. Your hip pops, your neck cricks. Welcome to life before chiropractors. Around you, other people are starting to stir too. Someone yawns, a big jaw-cracking yawn that you feel in your own mouth. Someone else stretches with a groan that echoes slightly off the cave walls. The morning routine is always the same. Fire first. Everything else depends on the fire. You carefully get to your feet and the cave floor is cold against your bare soles. These caves maintain a pretty constant temperature year-round, warmer than outside in winter, cooler in summer, but stone is still stone. Your feet have developed calluses thick as leather, but cold still seeps through. Walking toward the fire pit, you pass other members of your band who are also stirring to life. Carla, the best tracker in your group, is already sitting up and checking the stone tools she keeps beside her sleeping area. Brune, who's probably the closest thing you have to a leader, is examining the embers and deciding what kind of wood to add. The fire pit is carefully constructed in a depression in the cave floor, lined with stones to contain the heat and reflect it back up. Around it, the ground is worn smooth from generations of people sitting and working in this exact spot. You can see the stains from countless meals, the char marks from dropped embers, the smooth patches where stone tools have been knapped for thousands and thousands of hours. Brune nods at you as you approach. He's already selected some thin, dry kindling, birch bark and fine twigs that will catch easily from the embers. You help him arrange the wood in a careful structure, building up from the smallest pieces to create the right airflow for the flames to take hold. Working together, you blow gently on the embers, coaxing them back to life. The red glow brightens and tiny flames begin to lick at the birch bark. The smell of smoke gets stronger, mixing with that distinctive scent of hot stone and ash. More flames catch, and suddenly you have real fire again. Dancing, crackling, wonderful fire that pushes back the darkness and starts to warm your hands. Fire is life. Fire is protection. Fire is the difference between human and animal. Around the growing flames, more people gather. Children who were still sleepy moments ago become alert and focused. Fire means warmth, but it also means food, and everyone's stomach is reminding them that they haven't eaten since yesterday evening. The good news about being a hunter-gatherer is that you don't have to worry about a mortgage or taxes or your boss being unhappy with your quarterly performance review. The bad news is that every single day starts with the question, what are we going to eat and how are we going to get it? Yesterday was a decent day. The hunters managed to bring down a deer. Not huge, but enough to feed everyone with some left over for today. The gatherers came back with their carrying bags full of nuts, roots, and berries. But that was yesterday. Today, you're starting from scratch. You settle into the familiar rhythm of morning preparation. Someone fetches water from the stream that runs past your cave. Clear, cold water carried in containers made from animal bladders and carved wood. Someone else starts preparing some of yesterday's leftover meat for a quick morning meal. The meat gets spitted on sharpened sticks and held over the flames until it's heated through. Not really cooked. This is more like reheating leftovers, but warm food on a cold morning is a small miracle. The smell of heating meat mixes with the wood smoke, and your stomach makes that empty, anticipatory rumble. While you're eating your small portion of warmed meat and some nuts from yesterday's gathering, the day's planning begins. This isn't like a modern business meeting with agendas and PowerPoint presentations. It's more like a casual conversation around the fire, but the stakes are life and death. The hunting party, maybe 6 or 7 people, will head east today following the deer trail that was spotted yesterday. Deer are creatures of habit, and if you know their patterns, you can intercept them at water sources or feeding areas, but hunting big game with stone-tipped spears and wooden clubs is dangerous, difficult work. Most hunting expeditions come back empty-handed. The gathering party will spread out through the forest looking for anything edible. Nuts, berries, roots, tubers, mushrooms, bird eggs, insects, medicinal plants. Gathering is actually more reliable than hunting. You almost always find something, but it requires incredible knowledge of the natural world. You need to know which berries are safe and which will kill you, which roots are edible and which will make you violently sick, which mushrooms are food and which are poison, when and where to find bird eggs, how to process bitter nuts to make them edible, where the good tool-making stones can be found. Your people carry this knowledge in their heads, hundreds of pieces of information passed down through generations of trial and error and careful observation. There are no books, no Google, no instruction manuals, just human memory and hard-won experience. As the morning fire burns brighter and the cave starts to warm up, people begin the daily ritual of checking and maintaining their tools. Stone tools dull with use and need constant attention. Wooden spears get damaged and require repair. Clothing made from animal skins needs mending. You examine your own personal kit, the stone knife you made yourself, your wooden digging stick, the leather pouch that holds your fire-making materials. The knife has a few small chips in the edge from yesterday's work, nothing serious, but it could be sharper. Knapping, shaping stone tools, is both an art and a science. You need to understand how different types of stone fracture, how to strike them at just the right angle with just the right force to remove flakes and create a sharp edge. It's incredibly precise work that requires years of practice. You settle into a comfortable position with your stone hammer and start the careful process of resharpening your knife. Each strike has to be placed exactly right. Too hard and you'll break the tool. Too soft and nothing happens. Hit it at the wrong angle and you'll ruin hours of previous work. The sound of stone on stone rings through the cave as other people work on their own tools. It's a comfortable, familiar sound, the soundtrack of Paleolithic life. Chip, 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 the rhythmic percussion of survival. Your knife sharpens nicely. The edge is now keener than most modern kitchen knives, sharp enough to slice through hide and meat and plant material with ease. You test it carefully on a piece of leather, and it cuts cleanly. Good. This tool might save your life today. Around you, the cave is coming fully alive. Children who are old enough help with basic tasks, feeding the fire, organising the sleeping areas, checking water containers. Younger kids stay close to their mothers, but even they're learning by watching. There's no formal education here, just constant observation and gradual participation in adult activities. The really little ones, babies and toddlers, are kept warm and safe near the fire while their mothers prepare for the day's work. One baby is fussing, and her mother nurses her while simultaneously checking over her gathering tools. Multitasking was invented about 2.5 million years ago. You shift position, getting more comfortable as the cave slowly warms. Nice and easy, the familiar sounds and smells and textures of this morning routine are oddly soothing, despite the harsh realities. This is your world, this is your family, this is home. As the sun climbs higher outside the cave, sending more light through the entrance, the pace of preparation picks up. People start moving toward the mouth of the cave, ready to begin another day of searching for food and materials and everything else you need to survive. But before anyone goes anywhere, there's one more crucial morning task: assessing the weather and the world outside. Brune, along with 2 other experienced hunters, walks to the cave entrance to study the day. They're looking at the sky, feeling the wind, listening to the sounds of birds and animals. Weather prediction without meteorologists or Doppler radar requires reading dozens of subtle environmental cues. Cloud formations tell stories about coming storms. Wind direction indicates where rain might be heading. The behavior of birds and animals gives clues about atmospheric pressure changes, the color of the dawn sky, the feel of the air, the smell carried on the breeze. All of it matters when your life depends on being outside in whatever nature decides to throw at you. Today looks promising. The sky is clear, the wind is calm, and you can hear the normal chatter of birds in the forest. No signs of incoming bad weather, good hunting and gathering conditions. Time to go face the world. You gather your tools and equipment: stone knife, wooden digging stick, leather carrying pouch, a piece of fire-starting material wrapped in bark. Everything you own fits in your hands or hangs from a simple belt made of twisted plant fibers. The gathering party assembles near the cave entrance. 8 people today, including yourself, all equipped with the tools needed for finding and collecting food. You're wearing your usual outfit, leather leggings and a tunic made from carefully prepared deer hide. Soft leather boots, stuffed with grass for insulation, and a heavier skin cloak that can be wrapped around you if the weather turns cold. Your clothes fit well and move with your body. These aren't random animal skins thrown over your shoulders. They're carefully tailored garments sewn with sinew thread using bone needles. The leather has been treated with animal fat to make it water resistant, and the seams are reinforced in places that take the most stress. Everything about your outfit is functional. No pockets. You don't need them when you only own a few tools. No zippers or buttons. Everything fastens with leather ties or simple toggles made from bone or antler. No synthetic materials, obviously, but also no cotton or wool. Just leather and fur and plant fibers, all processed by hand using techniques passed down through countless generations. Standing at the cave entrance, looking out at the forest that stretches endlessly in all directions, you feel the familiar mix of anticipation and anxiety that starts every day. Out there is everything you need to survive: food, materials, resources. But out there is also everything that can kill you. Large predators, venomous snakes, poisonous plants, fast-moving rivers, cliff edges, sudden storms, rival groups of humans who might not be friendly, getting lost, getting injured far from help, 1,000 ways to die, and only your knowledge and skills and the cooperation of your band to protect you. You take a deep breath of the morning air. It smells like forest, green and alive and complex, damp earth and decomposing leaves and growing plants and the musk of animals that passed this way recently. Clean air, pure air, air that hasn't been touched by pollution or industry or any of the substances that modern humans breathe every day. The sun feels good on your face as you step out of the cave. Real sunlight, not filtered through windows or reflected off buildings. Direct solar radiation that will warm your skin and provide the light you need to work by. No electricity, no artificial lighting, just the sun and moon and stars and fire. Your feet find the familiar path that leads down from your cave toward the forest floor. This path has been worn smooth by generations of your people making this same journey every day for hundreds of years. Your ancestors walked this exact route, and if you're lucky and skilled, your descendants will too. You shift your carrying pouch to a more comfortable position and adjust your grip on your digging stick. The morning is young and there's a full day of work ahead. Time to go find what the forest has to offer today. Behind you, the hunters are making their final preparations, checking spear points, discussing strategy, sharing the precious few arrows tipped with the sharpest stone points your group can make. Ahead of you, the gathering party moves through the forest with practiced silence, eyes and ears alert for anything useful. This is it. This is your life. This is what it really means to be human. Your muscles relax as you settle into the familiar rhythm of walking through your territory, and with each step, the adventure of another day in the Paleolithic world begins to unfold around you. The forest closes around you like a living thing. Every step takes you deeper into a world that's both beautiful and terrifying, where every shadow could hide food or danger, and sometimes both at the same time. You're moving through what will someday be called an old-growth forest, but right now it's just the world. Trees that have been growing for centuries stretch up into a canopy so thick that the morning light filters down in shifting beams and patches. Oak and ash and beech trees, massive trunks that would take 6 people holding hands to circle. The understory is dense with smaller trees and shrubs, and the forest floor is carpeted with layers of decomposing leaves that squelch softly under your feet. The sounds are incredible. Birds everywhere, not just the few species you'd hear in a modern park, but dozens of different calls echoing through the trees, the rustle of small animals moving through the undergrowth, the distant crack of a branch falling somewhere in the depths of the forest. Wind moving through leaves in waves that you can actually hear approaching and passing overhead. Your gathering party spreads out as you walk, each person following their own path but staying within earshot of the others. You never go anywhere alone, ever. Being alone in this world is basically a death sentence. Predators hunt alone humans. Accidents happen. Getting lost means dying, and dying means your family doesn't eat. Kessa, who's probably the best plant identifier in your group, calls out softly from about 20 feet to your left. She's found something. You angle toward her voice, pushing through a thicket of hazelnut bushes that catch at your leather clothing and scratch at your exposed skin. She's kneeling beside a cluster of plants with broad heart-shaped leaves and small white flowers. "Wild garlic," she says, and the satisfaction in her voice is obvious. This is a good find, not just food, but medicine too. Wild garlic can help with infections, and it adds flavour to otherwise bland meals. You help her carefully dig up several of the bulbs using your wooden digging sticks. The tools are simple but effective. Hardwood sticks about as long as your arm, sharpened to a point and hardened in fire. They're perfect for digging roots and tubers without damaging them. The bulbs come up easily in the soft forest soil. They're small, about the size of your thumb, with papery white skin and that unmistakable sharp smell of garlic. Kessa rubs one clean and bites into it, chewing thoughtfully. "Good," she says. "Strong. These will keep well." You wrap the bulbs in a piece of soft leather and tuck them into your carrying pouch. So far, so good. The day is off to a promising start. Your group continues deeper into the forest, following animal trails and paths that your people have used for generations. Every few hundred yards, someone finds something worth collecting. Nuts from hazelnut bushes, berries that are just starting to ripen, wild mushrooms growing on rotting logs, but only the ones that experienced gatherers know are safe. The knowledge required for this work is staggering. You need to know hundreds of different plants, their seasons, their habitats, how to process them, how to store them. Some plants are only edible at certain times of year. Some require complex preparation to remove toxins. Some look almost identical to poisonous varieties, but have subtle differences that can mean the difference between a good meal and a horrible death. Take mushrooms. There are dozens of edible varieties in your forest, but also several that will kill you in very unpleasant ways. The difference between food and poison might be the colour of the spores, or the way the stem breaks, or the smell when the mushroom is crushed. Get it wrong, and you're dead. Get it right, and you have a delicious, nutritious meal. Your people have been learning these distinctions for thousands of years, passing the knowledge down through careful teaching and observation. No one forages alone until they've spent years learning from experts. Even now, experienced as you are, you still check with others when you find something unusual. The sun climbs higher as your group works its way through the forest, and you can feel the day starting to warm up. The morning chill is lifting, and walking at a steady pace is starting to make you pleasantly warm under your leather clothing. You adjust your carrying pouch and keep moving. About an hour into the expedition, Toma calls out from near a stream bank. His voice has that particular excitement that means he's found something really good. You push through the undergrowth toward the sound, and what you see makes you smile. Wild honey. High up in an old oak tree, maybe 20 feet off the ground, there's a dark opening in the trunk where a colony of wild bees has made their home. You can see them coming and going, and that sweet smell of honey is faint but unmistakable on the breeze. Honey is like winning the lottery. It's concentrated energy, pure sugars that your body craves and burns efficiently. It keeps well without spoiling. It has medicinal properties, and it tastes incredible, especially when your normal diet consists of meat, nuts, and whatever vegetables you can find, but getting it is dangerous work. The plan develops quickly. Toma is the best climber in your group, and he volunteers to go up. You'll build a fire at the base of the tree and create smoke to calm the bees. Someone else will prepare containers to hold the honeycomb. Everyone else will be ready to run if things go badly. Wild bees are not docile. They will defend their hive aggressively, and bee stings can be seriously dangerous if you get enough of them. People have died trying to collect honey, but the reward is worth the risk. You gather dry wood and tinder, while others search for the right kind of green leaves to create heavy smoke. The fire needs to produce a lot of smoke without too much flame. You want to calm the bees, not burn down the tree. The fire catches quickly, and soon you have thick white smoke rolling up toward the bee tree. The sound of buzzing gets quieter as the smoke reaches the hive entrance. Bees evolved with forest fires, and smoke triggers their instinct to gorge on honey and prepare to abandon the hive. When they're focused on eating, they're less likely to attack. Toma strips off most of his clothing, fewer places for angry bees to get caught, and starts climbing. He's incredibly skilled, moving up the rough bark with the confidence of someone who's been climbing trees since he could walk. His feet and hands find holds that you can barely see from the ground. Watching him climb, you're reminded of just how physically capable your people are. No gyms, no structured exercise programs, but everyone is lean and strong and flexible from a lifetime of this kind of activity. Toma moves like a modern rock climber, but he learned these skills as a child because his life depends on them. The smoke continues to roll up the tree, and the buzzing stays relatively quiet. Good sign. Toma reaches the level of the hive and carefully begins working his hand into the opening. He's feeling for honeycomb that can be removed without destroying the entire colony. Your people know not to take everything. Leave enough honey and bees and they'll rebuild for next time. A few bees spiral around him, but they seem more confused than aggressive. The smoke is doing its job. Toma's arm disappears into the tree trunk up to his elbow, and his face shows concentration as he feels around inside the hive. Then his expression changes to satisfaction. He's found good comb. Slowly, carefully, he extracts his arm from the tree. In his hand is a chunk of honeycomb about the size of your fist, golden and dripping with thick amber honey. Even from the ground, you can smell the sweetness. He tosses the comb down to waiting hands, then reaches back into the hive for more. 3 trips, 3 chunks of comb, and then he judges it's time to stop. Take too much, and you'll kill the colony. Take just enough and they'll recover and provide honey again in the future. Toma scrambles down the tree with the same skill he showed going up, dropping the last few feet to land lightly on the forest floor. A few bee stings on his arms and shoulders, but nothing serious. He's grinning with the satisfaction of a job well done. The honeycomb is gorgeous. Wax cells filled with honey so pure and concentrated it seems to glow in the dappled forest light. You can't resist breaking off a small piece and putting it in your mouth. The sweetness explodes across your tongue like nothing in the modern world. This isn't processed sugar or corn syrup. This is pure honey made by bees from the nectar of wildflowers. It's complex and floral and intensely sweet, and your body responds immediately with that rush of energy that comes from natural sugars hitting your bloodstream. You close your eyes for a moment, savouring the taste. Honey like this was the sweetest thing available to humans for tens of thousands of years. No chocolate, no candy, no desserts, just this, and it's perfect. The honeycomb gets carefully wrapped and packed away in leather containers. This is a treasure that will be shared with the entire band back at the cave. Children will get small pieces as treats. Adults will use it to make other foods more palatable. Some will be saved for winter when every calorie counts. Your gathering party continues through the forest, energized by the successful honey collection. The sun is getting higher now, and the forest is fully alive with activity. Birds calling from every direction, small animals rustling through the undergrowth. The constant, subtle movement of a healthy ecosystem. You find yourself settling into the meditation of long-distance walking through familiar territory. Your feet know this ground. Your eyes automatically scan for useful plants, signs of game, anything out of place that might indicate danger. Your breathing falls into a steady rhythm that matches your pace. This is one of the most peaceful times in Paleolithic life, moving through the forest with your community, working together, using skills that connect you directly to the natural world. No schedules, no deadlines, no artificial stress, just the ancient rhythm of human life in harmony with the environment. Well, mostly harmony. There are still plenty of ways to die out here. Around midday, your group stops beside a small stream to rest and eat. The water is clear and cold, running over smooth stones worn by countless years of current. You cup it in your hands and drink deeply, tasting the mineral purity of water that has never been processed or treated or run through pipes. Lunch is a selection of what you've gathered so far. Nuts, berries, some leftover meat from yesterday, and tiny tastes of that precious honey. You sit on a fallen log beside the stream, listening to the water and eating slowly, methodically. The food is challenging by modern standards. The meat is tough and requires serious chewing. The nuts are small and sometimes bitter. The berries are tart and seedy. Nothing is salted or seasoned or prepared in ways that enhance flavour. But your body knows this food, recognises it, processes it efficiently. And there's something deeply satisfying about eating food you gathered yourself with your own hands, using knowledge passed down through generations of your ancestors. This meal represents hours of skilled work and deep understanding of the natural world. Every bite was earned. As you eat, you notice how your body feels: strong, lean, efficient. Your muscles are dense and functional from constant physical activity. Your senses are sharp from relying on them for survival. Your mind is calm but alert, constantly processing information about your environment. This is what human bodies were designed for: not sitting in chairs for 8 hours a day, not eating processed foods, not living under artificial light. This, moving through natural landscapes, eating food you collected yourself, working with your community to solve the daily challenges of survival. After the meal, your group splits up to cover more territory. You partner with Denny, an older woman who knows more about medicinal plants than anyone else in your band. She's teaching you to identify herbs that can treat pain, infection, digestive problems, and other common ailments. The two of you work your way along the stream bank where many useful plants grow in the rich, moist soil. Denny shows you how to recognize willow bark, which can be chewed to relieve pain and fever. She points out wild mint growing in shady spots, good for stomach troubles. You find cattail roots growing in the marshy areas near the stream, starchy tubers that can be roasted or ground into flour. The knowledge Denny shares with you represents thousands of years of human experimentation with natural medicine. Your people have no doctors, no hospitals, no pharmacies. What they have is detailed understanding of which plants can heal and which can harm. Some of this knowledge is startlingly sophisticated. Your people know how to use willow bark for pain relief, the same active ingredient that's in modern aspirin. They know which mushrooms have antibiotic properties. They understand how to use certain plants to induce labor during difficult births or to prevent pregnancy when resources are scarce. But they also know the limitations of plant medicine. Serious injuries often mean death. Infections that modern antibiotics could cure easily become fatal. Childbirth is dangerous. Life expectancy is much shorter than in the modern world. The afternoon passes in this way: walking, searching, learning, collecting. Your carrying pouch gets heavier as you add more plants and roots and other useful materials. The sun moves across the sky, and the light in the forest shifts from bright midday to the warmer slanted rays of late afternoon. You're getting tired, not exhausted, but pleasantly fatigued from a day of steady physical activity. Your legs feel the miles you've walked, your back feels the weight of your collecting pouch, your hands are stained with plant juices and dirt from digging in the forest soil. But you're also deeply satisfied. This has been a good day. Your group has collected enough food and materials to make the expedition worthwhile. The honey alone makes this a successful trip, but you've also gathered enough plants and nuts to contribute meaningfully to tonight's meal. As the sun starts to sink lower in the sky, Denny calls the group together for the return journey. Time to head back to the cave. You don't want to be caught in the forest after dark. Night belongs to the predators. The walk back follows a different route than your morning path. Your people never travel the same way twice if they can help it. Predictable routes make you vulnerable to ambush, and they also mean you miss opportunities to find new resources or observe changes in your territory. This path takes you through a section of forest dominated by massive beech trees, their smooth grey bark rising like pillars into the canopy above. The ground here is covered with fallen beech nuts, and your group spends some time collecting the rich, oily nuts that will provide valuable calories. Beech nuts require preparation. They need to be shelled and the bitter husks removed, but they're worth the effort. High in fat and protein, they store well and provide concentrated nutrition during the leaner months of winter. As you work bent over and picking nuts from the forest floor, you become aware of how quiet it's gotten. The normal sounds of birds and small animals have faded. The forest feels expectant, waiting. Denny notices too. She straightens up slowly, her eyes scanning the trees around your group. Her hand moves casually to the stone knife at her belt, the universal signal for something's not right. Everyone freezes. You listen, really listen, beyond the normal forest sounds, beyond the whisper of wind in the leaves. There's something else. A rustling that doesn't match the rhythm of small animals. Something bigger, something moving with purpose through the undergrowth. Could be a deer, could be an elk, could be a bear, could be people who aren't your people. Denny makes a subtle hand gesture that means gather closer, stay quiet, be ready to run. Your group slowly, carefully consolidates into a tighter formation. No sudden movements, no noise. Just controlled readiness. The rustling gets closer. Through the trees you catch glimpses of movement, brown shapes moving between the tree trunks, coming your way. Then you see antlers. Elk, a small herd of them moving through the forest on their own afternoon journey. Huge animals, each one weighing more than 3 or 4 humans combined. Beautiful, magnificent, and potentially dangerous if they feel threatened. Your group stays perfectly still as the elk pass. 5 adults and 2 calves moving with that peculiar combination of grace and power that large wild animals possess. They're magnificent, thick coats gleaming in the afternoon light, massive antlers that could easily kill a human, muscles rippling under their skin as they walk. One of the adults stops about 30 feet from your group and looks directly at you, eye contact with a wild elk. For a long moment, you and this ancient creature regard each other across the space between species, 2 different kinds of animals sharing the same forest, the same world. Then the elk decides you're not a threat and continues on its way. The herd disappears into the forest as quietly as they appeared, leaving only the faint scent of musk and the memory of that brief, intense connection. Your group relaxes. Denny grins and makes the hand sign for good luck. Seeing elk is always a positive omen. They're associated with strength and endurance, and encountering them safely is considered a blessing from the forest spirits. You finish collecting beech nuts and continue the journey home. The sun is definitely getting lower now, and the light in the forest is taking on that golden quality of late afternoon. Time to pick up the pace. The path climbs gradually as you approach your home territory. The cave is situated on higher ground for good reason. Better visibility, easier to defend, and less likely to flood during heavy rains. Your legs feel the incline as you climb, but it's a familiar burn. You've made this walk thousands of times. As you crest the final hill before home, you can smell wood smoke on the breeze. The hunters must be back already, and someone has built up the fire. Good. Fire means warmth and cooking and the comfortable gathering space where your band comes together at the end of each day. You can also smell cooking meat, really smell it, rich, savoury scents that make your mouth water and your stomach rumble with anticipation. The hunters were successful today. There will be fresh meat tonight, along with everything your gathering party has collected. The cave entrance comes into view, and you can see people moving around the fire pit, children playing in the safe area near the cave mouth, adults working on various tasks, some preparing food, others working on tools or clothing, the comfortable bustle of a successful community. You're almost home. Your body feels the relief of completing another day's work safely. Your carrying pouch is heavy with useful plants and nuts. Your knowledge has grown through another day of learning from Denny. The forest provided well today. As you approach the cave, children run out to greet the returning gathering party. They want to see what you've found, hoping for treats like berries or nuts they can eat right away. Their excitement is infectious, reminding you of the simple pleasure of sharing resources with your community. You ruffle the hair of Mira, a 7-year-old girl who's particularly interested in plants. She follows you everywhere during gathering expeditions, asking endless questions about which plants are useful and why. Today, she wants to know about every single thing in your collecting pouch. The transition from forest to cave feels abrupt but welcoming. Outside is vast and wild and full of possibilities and dangers. Inside is controlled space, human space, the place where your band comes together for safety and warmth and shared meals. You settle onto your favourite spot near the fire pit and begin unpacking your day's collection. Each plant and nut and root represents knowledge applied, skills used, successful interaction with the natural world, small victories that add up to survival. Your shoulders drop as you let the day's tension release, and the familiar warmth of the fire begins to ease muscles that have been working since dawn. The fire welcomes you back with its familiar warmth and dancing light. You can feel the heat seeping into your tired muscles as you settle closer to the flames, and there's something deeply comforting about being back in this controlled space after a day in the vast, unpredictable forest. The hunters did well today. Really well. Spread around the fire pit are the remains of 2 deer, not huge animals, but enough meat to feed your entire band with leftovers for tomorrow. The successful hunt means tonight will be a feast, and feast nights are rare enough to be genuinely special. Brune and the other hunters are sharing their story while people work on food preparation. The tale unfolds in the casual, collaborative way of people who know each other intimately. Someone starts the story, another person adds details, a third corrects a minor point or emphasizes a particularly skillful moment. They tracked the deer for most of the morning, following barely visible signs through dense forest. A broken twig here, a hoofprint in soft soil there, the faintest scent trail that only the most experienced trackers can detect. The pursuit required patience, endurance, and the kind of environmental knowledge that takes decades to develop. The actual kill happened quickly. The hunters managed to surround a small group of deer at a water source, and Jorik made a perfect spear throw that brought down a young buck with a single strike. The second deer, attempting to flee, ran directly into spears held by 2 other hunters positioned along the escape route. Clean kills, quick deaths, minimal suffering for the animals, and maximum protein for your people. You listen to the hunting story while unpacking your own day's collection, organising the plants and nuts you gathered into different piles based on how they'll be used. Some things will be eaten tonight, others need processing or preparation, some will be stored for future use. The honeycomb you helped collect creates quite a stir when it's revealed. Children gather around to stare at the golden treasure, and adults nod approvingly at Toma's climbing skills. Honey is always welcome, but finding this much in one place is exceptional luck. Kessa is already working on the wild garlic bulbs, cleaning them and preparing them to flavour tonight's meat. The sharp, pungent scent fills the air around the fire as she works, mixing with the wood smoke and the rich smell of cooking venison. Food preparation in the Paleolithic is both simple and sophisticated. Simple because your tools are basic: stone knives, wooden implements, fire. Sophisticated because your people have had thousands of years to figure out how to make the most of limited ingredients and cooking methods. The deer meat is being prepared in several different ways. Some chunks are spitted on sharpened sticks and roasted directly over the flames, the classic caveman cooking method that actually works pretty well. Other pieces are being cooked in a more complex way that shows just how clever your people really are. Rana, one of the most skilled cooks in your band, has created what's basically a Stone Age oven using heated rocks and a pit lined with leaves. Large stones were placed in the fire hours ago and allowed to heat through. Now she's using wooden tongs to transfer the red-hot stones into a pit that's been lined with large, clean leaves. The hot stones are covered with more leaves, then chunks of deer meat wrapped in yet more leaves are placed on top. Another layer of leaves goes over the meat, then the whole thing is covered with dirt to create a sealed cooking chamber. The meat will cook slowly and evenly in the steam and heat generated by the hot stones. It's ingenious. No metal pots, no ovens, no modern cooking equipment, just stones and leaves and fire and human intelligence. The result will be meat that's tender and flavorful, cooked through without being burned or dried out. While the stone oven does its work, other people are preparing the gathered plant foods. Nuts are being cracked between stones and the meat extracted. Bitter roots are being sliced and soaked in water to remove some of their harshness. Berries are being sorted, with the best ones saved for eating fresh and any damaged ones set aside for immediate consumption. You help with nut processing, settling into the rhythmic work of cracking shells and picking out the nut meats. It's meditative, repetitive work that lets your mind wander while your hands stay busy. The sound of stones cracking nuts mingles with the crackling of the fire and the quiet conversations happening around the cave. Your body feels good, tired but in a satisfying way, the kind of fatigue that comes from a full day of useful physical work rather than the drained exhaustion of modern stress. Your muscles are pleasantly weary and the warmth of the fire is helping them relax and recover from the day's exertions. As the sun sinks lower outside the cave, the light changes from the golden glow of late afternoon to the deeper, warmer hues of evening. Inside the cave, the firelight becomes more prominent, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls and creating that intimate atmosphere that comes with the end of the day. And children who spent the afternoon playing and helping with simple tasks are starting to show signs of tiredness. The youngest ones are staying closer to their mothers, and there's less running around and more sitting quietly by the fire. The transition from day to evening happens naturally, without clocks or schedules, just the rhythms of light and darkness and human energy. The first cooking meat is ready. Jorik uses his stone knife to slice thin pieces from a leg that's been roasting over the fire, testing for doneness. The meat is perfectly cooked, hot all the way through, but still juicy, with that slightly smoky flavour that comes from cooking over a wood fire. He offers the first taste to the eldest member of your band, old Senna, as is proper. She chews thoughtfully, nods approval, and gestures for the meal to begin. This isn't quite the free-for-all that modern people might imagine. There are customs, hierarchies, ways of doing things that maintain social harmony and ensure everyone gets fed. The meal unfolds slowly, deliberately. People eat in a relaxed way that allows for conversation and storytelling. Children get choice pieces of meat along with some of that precious honey. Adults share everything equally, with special consideration for pregnant or nursing mothers who need extra nutrition. You receive your portion of venison, a generous piece that's been flavoured with wild garlic and cooked to perfection. The meat is rich and satisfying in a way that modern farm-raised meat rarely matches. Wild game has a different texture, a more complex flavour, a density of nutrition that comes from animals that lived active lives in natural environments. The fat is particularly valuable. Modern people often avoid fat, but in the Paleolithic world, fat is concentrated energy that your body craves and needs. The layer of fat under the deer's skin, the marrow in the bones, the rich fat around the organs, all of it is prized and consumed eagerly. You eat slowly, savouring each bite. The meat provides immediate satisfaction for your hunger, but it also represents security. A successful hunt means your band won't go hungry tomorrow. The leftover meat will be processed and preserved, extending the benefits of today's success into the future. As you chew, you notice how quiet the cave has become. Not silent, there's still the crackling of the fire, the soft sounds of people eating, occasional quiet conversation, but the urgent energy of the day has settled into something calmer, more contemplative. This is one of the most peaceful times in Paleolithic life. The day's work is done, food has been found and prepared and shared. Everyone is safe inside the cave with a warm fire and full bellies. These moments of security and comfort are rare enough to be treasured. You shift position slightly, getting more comfortable against the stone wall that forms your backrest. The fire's warmth feels good on your face and hands, and your stomach is pleasantly full of rich meat and nuts and the lingering sweetness of honey. The stone oven is opened for the second course. Rana carefully removes the layers of dirt and leaves to reveal the deer meat that's been cooking slowly for hours. Steam rises from the pit, carrying scents that make everyone lean forward in anticipation. The meat that emerges is incredibly tender, falling apart at the touch of a wooden implement. It's been cooked gently and evenly, infused with the flavours of the leaves that wrapped it and the smokiness from the heated stones. This is sophisticated cooking using Stone Age technology. Everyone gets a portion of the pit-cooked meat, and the difference in texture and flavour from the roasted meat is remarkable. Your people understand that variety in food preparation isn't just about taste. Different cooking methods preserve different nutrients and make various components of the food more digestible. While people eat the second course, the leftover raw meat is being prepared for preservation. Some will be cut into thin strips and hung near the fire to dry into jerky. Other pieces will be rendered for their fat, which can be used for waterproofing, medicine, and preserving other foods. Nothing is wasted. The bones will be cracked tomorrow to extract the nutritious marrow. The hide is already being prepared for processing into leather. Sinew will be saved for sewing thread. Antler and bone will become tools. Even the hooves have uses. A successful hunt provides resources far beyond just meat. As the meal progresses, the atmosphere in the cave becomes increasingly relaxed and social. This is when stories get told, when knowledge gets passed down, when the social bonds that hold your band together are reinforced and strengthened. Old Senna, the eldest woman in your group, begins telling a story that everyone has heard before but no one minds hearing again. It's about the great winter when she was young, when the snow was so deep that hunting became impossible for weeks and the band survived by eating cached supplies and gathered materials that had been stored in hidden locations. The story serves multiple purposes. It's entertainment, obviously, but it's also education. Senna is teaching the younger members of the band about resource management, about preparing for hard times, about the importance of planning ahead. The story contains practical survival information disguised as entertainment. You lean back against the cave wall and let the familiar rhythm of Senna's voice wash over you. These oral traditions are how your people preserve and transmit knowledge across generations. No writing, no books, no external storage systems, just human memory and the ancient art of storytelling. The fire burns lower as the evening progresses, but someone occasionally adds wood to keep it going. The light becomes softer, more intimate, creating a cocoon of warmth and safety in the vast darkness outside the cave. Children are getting sleepy. The youngest ones have already been put to bed on their grass mats, covered with soft furs and positioned close enough to the fire for warmth but far enough away to be safe. Their mothers hum quiet songs while nursing or simply holding them close. The older children are allowed to stay up longer, but they're showing signs of tiredness. They sit quietly by the fire, listening to adult conversations, occasionally nodding off against a parent's shoulder before being gently roused and encouraged to stay awake a little longer. You feel your own energy settling into evening mode. The urgency and alertness required for daytime survival in the wilderness is giving way to something calmer, more contemplative. Your breathing slows naturally as your body recognizes the transition from active day to restful evening. Someone starts working on tomorrow's tools. Stone napping by firelight isn't ideal, but simple maintenance tasks can be done in the flickering illumination. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone adds to the peaceful atmosphere, a gentle percussion that speaks of preparation and care for the implements that make survival possible. Women are working on clothing repair, using bone needles and sinew thread to mend small tears in leather garments. This is skilled work that requires good hand-eye coordination, but experienced seamstresses can do basic repairs even in dim light. The clothing your people wear represents hundreds of hours of labor, and maintaining it properly is essential. The social dynamics of evening time are different from the focused urgency of daytime activities. People sit closer together, conversations are quieter, more intimate, physical contact increases, children leaning against parents, adults sitting shoulder to shoulder, casual touching that reinforces social bonds. You notice how the fire affects everyone's behaviour. People orient themselves toward it, not just for warmth, but as a social focus. The fire is the centre of community life, the gathering point that brings the band together at the end of each day. It's been this way for hundreds of thousands of years. As the evening deepens, some people begin preparing for sleep. The sleeping areas are arranged around the fire pit in a rough circle, with families grouped together and the most vulnerable members, young children and elderly people, positioned closest to the warmth and light. Your own sleeping area is ready from this morning's brief tidying. The grass mat has been shaken out and rearranged. Your sleeping furs have been aired and positioned for maximum warmth. Everything is prepared for another night's rest on the stone floor of the cave. But sleep is still some time away. Evening activities continue at a relaxed pace as people finish their tasks and gradually wind down from the day. Some individuals work on personal projects, carving wooden tools, preparing plant materials for future use, organising their few personal possessions. The cave itself seems to exhale as the day ends. The stone walls, which absorbed heat from the fire during the day, slowly release that warmth back into the air. The temperature remains comfortable despite the cooling air outside. Caves are naturally insulated, maintaining relatively stable temperatures year-round. You stretch your legs and adjust your position by the fire. Your muscles feel loose and relaxed from the day's exercise, and the warm, food-full feeling in your stomach adds to the general sense of well-being. This is what contentment feels like in the Paleolithic world. Basic needs met, community gathered safely together, another day survived successfully. The sound of evening wind outside the cave entrance creates a subtle backdrop to the indoor activities. It's a reminder that the world beyond your small circle of firelight continues its ancient rhythms, but here in this protected space, your people have created a pocket of human warmth and safety. Children's voices are getting quieter as they settle into the calmer energy of nighttime. The youngest ones are already asleep on their mats, their small bodies relaxed and peaceful under soft furs. The sight of sleeping children always brings a sense of satisfaction to the adults. Another generation successfully protected through another day. Someone banks the fire for the night, arranging the wood so it will burn slowly and steadily without requiring constant attention. The flames die down to a more manageable level, but the coals remain hot and ready to be built back up if needed. Fire management is a critical skill that ensures warmth and protection throughout the night. The transition towards sleep happens gradually, naturally. People finish their evening tasks and begin moving toward their sleeping areas. Conversations become quieter, more intermittent. The energy level in the cave slowly decreases as everyone prepares for rest. You feel the day's tension continuing to ebb away as you settle more comfortably against your resting spot. Your breathing deepens naturally, and a comfortable yawn escapes as your body begins its transition toward the night ahead. As the fire settles into its nighttime rhythm, your band begins the evening activities that separate humans from every other animal on Earth. This is when the real magic happens, when survival becomes culture, when basic existence becomes something deeper and more meaningful. Jorik pulls out a piece of antler he's been working on for several days, along with a sharp stone baron designed for carving. By firelight, he continues the careful process of creating what will eventually become a spear thrower, a tool that will dramatically increase the range and power of thrown spears. The carving work is incredibly precise. Each cut must be placed exactly right to maintain the tool's balance and functionality. Too much material removed in the wrong place, and weeks of work are ruined. Too little, and the tool won't work properly. Jorik works with the focused concentration of someone who understands that his life depends on the quality of his tools. You watch him work, admiring the skill involved. The spear thrower he's creating represents thousands of years of technological development. Early humans figured out that a lever-like device could multiply the force of a thrown spear, allowing hunters to bring down larger prey from greater distances. This innovation literally changed the course of human evolution. The tool looks simple, just a carved piece of antler with a hook at one end to hold the spear and a handle at the other, but the physics involved are sophisticated. The length, balance point, and flex characteristics all have to be precisely calculated for the tool to work effectively. Jorik learned these calculations not through mathematical formulas, but through years of trial and error passed down from master craftsmen. Nearby, Kessa is working on a different kind of technology, plant processing. She's grinding wild grass seeds between two stones, transforming them into a coarse flour that can be mixed with water to make a simple bread or porridge. The work is labor-intensive and time-consuming, but it unlocks nutrition from plants that would otherwise be indigestible. The grinding stones she uses are carefully selected for the job. The bottom stone is large and flat with a slightly rough surface. The top stone is smaller and shaped to fit comfortably in her hands while providing maximum grinding pressure. Both stones were shaped through hours of careful knapping, and they represent a significant investment of time and skill. The rhythmic sound of stone grinding grain is one of the oldest industrial noises in human history. This same basic technology, crushing seeds between stones to make flour, would eventually evolve into watermills, windmills, and modern grain processing. But here in the cave, it's just Kessa's strong arms and patient work turning wild grass into food. The flour that results from her efforts is coarse and dark, nothing like the refined white flour of the modern world, but it's nutritious and filling, providing carbohydrates that complement the protein from hunting and the vitamins from gathered plants. When mixed with water and cooked on hot stones near the fire, it becomes a simple flatbread that helps extend the value of other foods. You shift your position, getting more comfortable as you watch the various evening activities happening around the fire. Each person is engaged in work that contributes to the band's survival and well-being. There's no leisure time in the modern sense, but there's also no distinction between work and life. Everything flows together into the integrated whole of Paleolithic existence. Old Senna has finished her earlier story and now begins a different kind of teaching, practical instruction about medicinal plants. She's working with several of the younger women, including some who have recently become mothers for the first time. The knowledge she shares could literally save lives. She shows them how to prepare willow bark tea for pain relief and fever reduction. The bark must be harvested at the right time of year from trees of the right age and prepared in specific ways to maximize its effectiveness. Too little preparation and it won't work. Too much and it becomes bitter and hard to swallow. The teaching includes detailed information about dosages, how much tea for a child versus an adult, how often to administer it, what other symptoms to watch for when willow bark isn't appropriate, and other treatments should be used instead. This is sophisticated medical knowledge being transmitted through careful oral instruction. Senna also teaches about plants that help with childbirth, herbs that can ease labour pains, others that can help stop dangerous bleeding, plants that can increase milk production in nursing mothers. This knowledge is literally life and death important in a world without modern medical care. The younger women listen intently, asking questions and practicing the identification of plants by examining dried samples that Senna keeps in carefully wrapped bundles. They understand that mastering this information could mean the difference between losing a child and successfully raising the next generation. As the instruction continues, you're struck by how much knowledge your people carry in their heads. No books, no external storage systems, no way to look things up when you forget. Everything must be memorized, practiced, and passed down through direct teaching and hands-on experience. The human brain evolved to handle exactly this kind of information processing. Your people have extraordinary memories for practical details that matter to survival. They can remember the locations of seasonal food sources, the behaviors of dozens of animal species, the properties of hundreds of plants, and complex social relationships going back generations. Modern humans often feel like their memory isn't very good, but that's because modern life requires remembering things like passwords and phone numbers and arbitrary facts that have no immediate survival relevance. Put those same brains to work on information that matters for staying alive, and the capacity is remarkable. Children who aren't yet ready for sleep are gathered around Brune for a different kind of teaching. He's showing them how to make cordage, strong rope twisted from plant fibers that has dozens of uses in Paleolithic life. This is basic technology that every adult needs to master. The process starts with gathering the right kind of plant fibers. Some plants produce strong, flexible fibers naturally. Others need processing to break down the plant material and expose the useful strands. Brune demonstrates the technique using dried grass that was collected earlier in the season. First, the plant material is beaten with stones to break down the woody parts and separate the fibers. Then the fibers are sorted by length and quality. The longest, strongest strands will become the core of the rope. Shorter pieces can be used for less critical applications or twisted together to add bulk. The actual rope making involves rolling the fibers against your leg while maintaining consistent tension and adding new material as needed. It's surprisingly difficult to do well. Too loose and the rope is weak, too tight and it becomes stiff and brittle. The children practice the basic motions while Brune corrects their technique. The finished cordage is strong enough to bind spear points to shafts, create snares for small game, secure loads for carrying, and dozens of other essential tasks. A band without good rope-making skills is a band that lacks some of the most basic tools needed for survival. You watch the children practice, remembering your own early attempts at cordage making. Like most Paleolithic skills, it looks simple, but requires considerable practice to master. The children's first attempts are clumsy and uneven, but they're learning the fundamental techniques that they'll refine over years of practice. The fire burns steadily as these various evening activities continue. The light flickers and dances, creating constantly shifting patterns of brightness and shadow on the cave walls. Sometimes you catch glimpses of the cave paintings that your people created over many generations. Images of animals and handprints and abstract symbols that speak to the human need to create and communicate through visual art. The paintings aren't just decoration, they serve important functions in your culture. Some depict hunting scenes that help teach young hunters about animal behavior and tactics. Others mark significant events or seasonal celebrations. Still others seem to be connected to spiritual beliefs about the relationship between humans and animals. Creating the paintings required considerable skill and effort. The pigments were made from natural materials: ochre for reds and yellows, charcoal for black, clay for whites and browns. These materials had to be ground fine and mixed with binding agents like animal fat or plant juices to create paint that would adhere to stone walls. The artists used various techniques to apply the paint. Handprints were made by placing a hand on the wall and blowing pigment around it through hollow reeds or bones. Animal figures were painted with brushes made from animal hair attached to wooden handles. Some images were created by engraving lines into the rock surface with sharp stone tools. The location of the paintings isn't random. Many are placed in areas of the cave with special acoustic properties, places where sounds echo and reverberate in interesting ways. Your people understood that the cave itself is a kind of instrument, and they positioned their art to take advantage of the natural sound effects. During special ceremonies, singers and musicians would position themselves near these painted areas and create music that resonated through the cave in remarkable ways. The combination of visual art, acoustic effects, and musical performance created immersive experiences that connected your band to their cultural traditions and spiritual beliefs. Tonight isn't a ceremony night, but you can still feel the presence of those painted ancestors watching from the cave walls. The images remind you that your people have been living in this cave, gathering around fires just like this one for many generations. You're part of a continuous chain of human survival and cultural transmission that stretches back into the deep past. The evening activities begin to wind down as people complete their various projects and start preparing more seriously for sleep. Tools are cleaned and put away in their designated spots. Clothing is arranged for easy access in the morning. Personal possessions are organized and secured. The social dynamics of the cave change as the transition towards sleep begins. Conversations become quieter and more intimate. Physical proximity increases as people move closer together for warmth and comfort. Children who have been playing independently move back to their parents for the security of family closeness. You help with the process of banking the fire for the night. This is critical work that requires considerable skill. The fire must be arranged so it will burn slowly and steadily throughout the night without going out, but also without flaring up dangerously while people sleep nearby. Large logs are positioned to burn slowly and provide long-lasting heat. Smaller wood is arranged to catch fire gradually as the larger pieces burn down. The whole structure is carefully planned to provide hours of heat and light without requiring constant attention. Someone will be responsible for monitoring the fire during the night, not staying awake constantly, but checking it periodically and adding fuel if necessary. Firewatch rotates among the adults, and it's considered one of the most important responsibilities in the band. As the fire settles into its overnight configuration, the light in the cave becomes softer and more subdued. The dramatic dancing flames of evening give way to the steady glow of well-banked coals. The atmosphere becomes increasingly peaceful and contemplative. People begin moving toward their sleeping areas, saying quiet goodnights and making final preparations for rest. Children are settled onto their grass mats with warm furs pulled up to their chins. Adults arrange their own bedding and position themselves for warmth and comfort. The sleeping arrangements reflect the social structure of your band. Family groups cluster together, with children positioned between parents for maximum protection and warmth. Single adults sleep near the edges of the group, but within the circle of firelight and safety. Your own sleeping area is positioned where you can easily reach your tools and weapons if needed during the night. Your spear is within arm's reach, along with your stone knife and other essential equipment. Even in sleep, you remain ready to respond to danger. The grass mat under your sleeping furs has been arranged to provide as much cushioning as possible against the hard stone floor. Additional layers of dried grass and moss create a barrier between your body and the cold rock. It's not comfortable by modern standards, but it's the best available sleeping surface in the Paleolithic world. You settle onto your mat and pull your sleeping furs around you. The animal skins are warm and soft from years of use, and they carry the comforting sense of your family and your life. These furs represent successful hunts, skilled hide preparation, and the accumulated warmth of many nights' sleep. The sounds in the cave gradually diminish as people settle into sleep. Conversations fade to whispers, then to silence. The only sounds are the crackling of the fire, the occasional shift of someone adjusting their position, and the deep, slow breathing of people relaxing into rest. Outside the cave, the night world is alive with different sounds. Owls calling from the forest, the distant howl of wolves, the rustle of nocturnal animals moving through the undergrowth. But inside the cave, protected by fire and stone walls and the presence of your band, these sounds seem distant and unthreatening. You feel your body beginning to relax as it recognizes the familiar transition towards sleep. Your muscles, which have been working hard all day, start to release their tension. Your breathing naturally slows and deepens. The warmth from the fire and your sleeping furs creates a cocoon of comfort around you. This is the end of another successful day in the Paleolithic world. Food was found and shared, tools were maintained and improved, knowledge was passed down to the next generation. Everyone survived safely to see another night. These simple accomplishments represent the fundamental victories of human existence. The fire continues to burn steadily, casting its warm glow on the sleeping forms scattered around the cave. The light flickers gently across the painted walls where your ancestors left their marks, connecting tonight to countless other nights when humans have gathered around fires for warmth and safety and companionship. Your breathing settles into a deeper rhythm as you feel yourself getting more comfortable on the grass mat, your body naturally finding that perfect position for rest. The day's adventures fade into pleasant memories as the peaceful warmth of the cave embraces you, and the gentle sounds of your sleeping community create the perfect backdrop for whatever dreams may come in this ancient, timeless place where humans have always found safety and peace. The night deepens around your cave, and the world outside settles into the ancient rhythms that have governed this planet for millions of years. Inside, your band sleeps peacefully around the dying embers of the fire, each person wrapped in the security of community and the hard-won comfort of another day survived. But as you lie on your grass mat, listening to the gentle breathing of your people and feeling the warm weight of animal furs against your skin, something remarkable begins to happen. The boundaries between then and now start to blur. The 25,000 years that separate the Paleolithic world from your modern life seem to compress into nothing more than a long, slow exhale. Because here's the truth that most people never really understand. You are them. Your DNA, your basic brain structure, your fundamental physical and emotional needs. They're virtually identical to those cave dwellers whose lives we've been exploring together. The human genome hasn't changed significantly in the last 40,000 years. You're running Stone Age software in a space age world. Those Paleolithic humans weren't primitive ancestors stumbling through a harsh world with limited intelligence. They were people just like you, with the same capacity for love and creativity and complex thought. They laughed at jokes, they mourned their dead, they told stories around fires and worried about their children and fell in love and felt wonder at the beauty of the natural world. The main difference between them and you isn't intelligence or emotion or basic human nature, it's just technology. They lived in a world without agriculture, without cities, without writing, without the accumulated knowledge that modern humans inherit from thousands of generations of cultural development. But they had things that you've lost, a direct, intimate connection to the natural world that modern people can barely imagine, knowledge of their environment so deep and complete that they could survive and thrive using nothing but what the earth provided, social bonds strengthened by shared struggle and mutual dependence for survival. They knew every plant in their territory, every animal track, every change in the weather. They could make fire from scratch, create tools from stones and wood, read the landscape like a book written in a language they understood perfectly. They lived entirely within their means, taking only what they needed, leaving the lightest possible footprint on the earth. And they had time. Not leisure time in the modern sense, but something deeper. They had time to notice things, time to develop skills, time to sit around fires and tell stories and think deep thoughts about the nature of existence. They weren't rushing to meetings or checking emails or managing complex schedules that fill every moment with artificial urgency. Your breathing slows as you consider these connections between past and present. The fire in the cave burns lower, and the light becomes softer, more dreamlike. The sounds of the sleeping band fade into a gentle background rhythm that matches the slow beating of your heart. Those ancient humans faced real problems that modern technology has largely solved. They dealt with hunger, cold, disease, injury, and death in ways that would seem impossible to us now. Childbirth was dangerous. Simple infections could be fatal. Winter was a constant threat. Life expectancy was much shorter. But they also didn't face the psychological stresses that plague modern humans. No anxiety about careers or finances or social media or global politics. No depression from feeling disconnected from nature and community. No chronic diseases from processed foods and sedentary lifestyles. Their problems were immediate and physical, but they were also solvable through direct action and community cooperation. The irony is that your Paleolithic ancestors might have been, in many ways, happier than modern humans. Their basic needs, food, shelter, safety, social connection, were either met or clearly unmet. There was no ambiguity, no existential confusion about purpose and meaning. Survival was the purpose, community was the meaning. They didn't suffer from the peculiar modern ailment of having all their physical needs met while feeling spiritually empty. They didn't have enough food to eat regularly, but they never wondered why they were alive, or what the point of existence might be. The point was to live another day, to help your people survive, to pass knowledge down to the next generation. Your muscles relax more deeply as these thoughts flow through your mind like a gentle stream. The grass mat beneath you feels softer now, more comfortable. The animal furs seem to conform perfectly to your body, creating a cocoon of warmth that reminds you of the most comfortable bed you've ever slept in. Modern humans often fantasize about simpler times, but Paleolithic life wasn't simple. It was direct. Every action had clear consequences. Every skill had obvious utility. Every day brought challenges that could be met with knowledge, strength, cooperation, and ingenuity. There was no complexity for its own sake, no bureaucracy, no abstract problems that couldn't be solved through direct engagement with the physical world. The social structures were complex but comprehensible. Everyone knew their role and responsibilities. Children learned by watching and gradually participating in adult activities. Elders were valued for their knowledge and experience. Individuals who couldn't contribute fully were still cared for by the community. Social problems were resolved through face-to-face discussion rather than legal systems or institutional procedures. And they had something that modern humans desperately crave: genuine connection to something larger than themselves. Not abstract spiritual beliefs, but daily practical integration with the natural world. They were part of the ecosystem, not separate from it. Their survival depended on understanding and respecting the rhythms of nature. The fire in the cave burns even lower now, just glowing embers that pulse like a slow, steady heartbeat. The light is dim and warm, casting everything in soft, comfortable shadows. The painted animals on the cave walls seem almost alive in the flickering glow, their eyes watching over the sleeping humans with ancient wisdom. You can feel your eyelids beginning to grow heavy as you sink deeper into these contemplations. Your body recognizes the approach of sleep, and all your muscles start to release the last of their tension. The transition from waking consciousness to rest happens as naturally as breathing. Those Paleolithic humans experienced this same transition every night. No electric lights to disrupt their circadian rhythms, no screens to overstimulate their brains before sleep, no caffeine or processed foods to interfere with natural sleep patterns. When darkness fell, they slept. When dawn came, they woke. Simple, natural, healthy. Their sleep was probably deeper and more restorative than anything modern humans typically experience. Physical exhaustion from a full day of meaningful activity, combined with the security of community and the comfortable familiarity of their cave home, would have created ideal conditions for profound rest. And their dreams. Imagine dreaming with a brain that hadn't been cluttered with artificial stimulation and abstract worries. Dreams filled with the real experiences of the day, tracking animals through forests, gathering plants, working with stone and wood, sitting around fires with people you loved. Dreams rooted in direct experience of the physical world rather than the virtual experiences that fill modern consciousness. Your breathing becomes even deeper and more regular as you feel yourself settling into that same kind of natural sleep that your ancestors knew. The modern world, with all its complexities, seems to fade away, leaving only the essential rhythms of human existence. The warmth of the fire, the security of community, the comfort of a safe place to rest. But here's the remarkable thing. Those Paleolithic humans created the foundation for everything that came after. Their innovations, fire, tools, language, art, social cooperation, made possible the agricultural revolution, the development of cities, the growth of technology, the modern world you live in today. They figured out how to be human, how to survive not just as individuals but as communities, how to pass knowledge from one generation to the next, how to create beauty and meaning in the midst of struggle, how to love and laugh and dream even when life was uncertain and often dangerous. The techniques they developed for working with stone became metallurgy, which became engineering, which became the technology that puts satellites in space. The plant knowledge they accumulated became agriculture, which became the food systems that feed billions of people. The social structures they created became the foundation for all human civilization. Your mind drifts gently as these connections become clearer. Past and present merge into a continuous flow of human experience spanning thousands of generations. You are the descendant of those cave dwellers, carrying their DNA, their basic brain structure, their fundamental capacity for survival and creativity and love. The fire in the cave dims to its lowest point, just barely glowing coals that provide the faintest light. The darkness is complete and comforting, like being wrapped in the softest blanket imaginable. Your eyelids feel heavier and heavier, and keeping them open requires more effort than it's worth. That Paleolithic world is still there, underneath all the layers of modern civilization, in your DNA, in your dreams, in the deep structures of your brain that respond to fire and community and the natural rhythms of day and night. You can access it anytime you need to remember what it means to be truly human. When modern life feels overwhelming, remember those cave dwellers who faced real dangers with courage and intelligence. When you feel disconnected, remember the deep bonds that held their communities together. When you feel purposeless, remember that your ancestors found meaning in the simple act of survival and the love they felt for their people. You are tougher than you think, smarter than you know, more connected to the natural world than modern life allows you to remember. You carry within you the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of human evolution, the survival skills and emotional resilience that allowed your species to thrive in conditions that would terrify most modern people. Your breathing slows to match the ancient rhythms of rest, and your body feels heavy and peaceful on the soft grass mat. The animal furs around you seem to pulse with warmth, and the gentle sounds of the sleeping cave community fade into the background of consciousness. The boundary between sleeping and waking becomes blurred and unimportant. You are safe. You are warm. You are part of a continuing story that stretches from those first humans who learned to control fire all the way to this moment, lying in your own comfortable bed, connecting across vast distances of time to understand what it really means to be human. Those cave dwellers would be amazed by the world their descendants created. Cities with millions of people, machines that fly through the sky, devices that let you communicate instantly with people on the other side of the planet, medical knowledge that can cure diseases they couldn't even imagine, abundance of food and comfort that would seem miraculous to people who struggled every day just to survive. But they would also recognize you immediately as one of their own. The same hopes and fears, the same capacity for love and creativity, the same need for community and purpose and connection to something larger than yourself, the same essential humanity that has remained constant across all the millennia of change and development. Your eyes close naturally now, and staying awake feels like trying to swim upstream against a gentle but irresistible current. The cave around you becomes dreamlike, and the sleeping forms of your Paleolithic family seem to merge with all the people you love in your modern life. Time expands and contracts like a slow breath. 25,000 years ago, today, tomorrow, all just different moments in the same continuous story of human experience. You are connected to it all. The cave dwellers learning to make fire, the farmers who invented agriculture, the builders who created cities, the scientists who unlocked the secrets of the universe. But tonight, in this peaceful moment between sleeping and waking, you remember the beginning, the time when humans first learned to gather around fires for warmth and safety and storytelling, when survival depended on cooperation and knowledge and the deep understanding that we are all part of the same human family. Your breathing becomes so slow and deep that each breath seems to last forever. The warmth of the fire, the softness of the furs, the security of the cave, the presence of your sleeping community, all of it blends together into a perfect feeling of peace and belonging. And as your consciousness gently releases its hold on the waking world, you carry with you the knowledge that you are part of something ancient and enduring and beautiful. You are human. You are connected, you are home. The cave grows quiet except for the soft sounds of peaceful breathing. The fire burns down to its smallest ember, still glowing, still warm, still providing the light that has guided humanity through the darkness for hundreds of thousands of years. And you sleep. Deep, restorative, natural sleep that connects you to every human who has ever lived, ever loved, ever dreamed of a better tomorrow for their children and their children's children. Sleep now. Rest in the knowledge that you are exactly who you were meant to be, carrying forward the best of human nature into whatever future awaits. Sleep with the wisdom of your ancestors and the hope of generations yet to come. Let your eyelids fall closed for the final time tonight. Let your breathing slow to match the ancient rhythms of rest. Let yourself drift away on the current of dreams that has carried humanity through countless nights just like this one. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, sleep with the confidence that you are part of the greatest story ever told, the story of human survival, human creativity, human love that transcends time and connects every heart that has ever beaten around a fire in the darkness. Rest now, modern cave dweller. Rest well.